This is episode 122 of The Variety Artist. This is John Abrams, your host and that guy that interviews successful variety artists from around the world every single week. Chainsaws, animal traps, fire stunts, bees. This podcast has everything. You're about to meet two performers that have done every sideshow stunt imaginable. We talk about their world records, their craziest injuries, and even their children's science show. It's fun, it's shocking, but most of all, you'll find that these are two of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. At the end of the show, make sure to rate and review. This is a fun one, folks. Enjoy.
Welcome to The Variety Artist, providing aspiring artists and entertainers with in-depth discussions from top performers from all over the world. So get ready to book some gigs, make some money, and have some fun with your host, John Abrams.
The world's most extreme two-man circus sideshow comedy magic extravaganza and 26-time Guinness World Record breakers. One has pulled a monster truck from hooks in his back and fallen 14 feet through a table, all for the entertainment of his audiences. One has been called the Tall Man, the world's handsomest man, the Crimson Mongoose, Two-Armed Bob, and the Human Wikipedia entry. Variety artists, I give you the Great Orbax and Sweet Pepper Klopek, the monsters of Schlock.
Hey. Hello, everybody.
How's it going, you guys?
It's going well. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Now, because this is audio, who is who?
I'm Pepper. Over here, I'm waving. Can you see me?
I'm Orbax, the one that's kind of nasally and will get undoubtedly too loud for the microphone at some point.
Okay.
Yes, and I'll just giggle in the background most of the time.
Wait, that was me giggling in the background. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Or was it
confused
Pepper?
already?
All right, well, let's get right to it. What are some of the world records you guys have broken?
So we've been going for 15 years now, I guess, of running a what I guess would be described as a bizarre comedy freak show.
Mm-hmm.
We've started breaking records in 2009, I believe, was our first record attempt. That was one of Pepper's. We'd been submitting wild and zany records to Guinness World Records for years and years and years and years. And they'd always been rejected as being too dangerous or too outrageous or too extreme, which if you've met us for 5 minutes, usually pretty much just sums up most of our ideas.
I have a feeling by the end of this podcast, people will know that.
Yeah, they're all terrible ideas. Every single one.
So the first genius idea that we had that got approved by Guinness that they showed some interest in was the most mouse traps consecutively released on a human tongue in 1 minute. We submitted that idea and they were interested. So we had to submit them a little mini reel of a teaser of how that would be done. And then Guinness sets a minimum requirement in order for it to be a record. So it's the most in a minute. And I believe they set the minimum requirement at 12. So in Pepper's first attempt, he did 28, I believe.
27 or 28, yeah.
27 or 28. And he only had to stop because we actually ran out of mousetraps. It turned out that somehow unnaturally we tapped into this ability of his that no one knew he had. Which was to very rapidly release mousetraps off on his tongue. That was our very first one in 2009, and since then we've been rolling strong. I've got one for towing a 9,000-pound truck for 111.7 meters, which is 336.6 feet for those of you in the United States of America, with just 2 shark hooks in my back.
Oh,
I dragged that thing. The record before that, I believe, Pepper, was like 110 meters. I just beat it.
Yeah, you beat it by just 2 meters or something. Like it was...
Yeah, and there's two hilarious stories that come out of that other hilarious story.
Go.
Which is that the record attempt stops when the wheels on the truck stop turning, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're just eking along, I was given a rope that I could pull with, sort of like you see any of these strongman competitions where they got the big rope, they can do the hand over hand.
Like the rope in front of you, you're pulling hand over hand.
Yeah,
Correct,
absolutely.
yes.
The area has to be surveyed. So you have to have surveyors come in and prove that it doesn't go downhill, because otherwise that would be somewhat of a trivial record, right?
Yeah.
So you're allowed it to be flat or uphill. And the only region that we could find, which we'd set this record in Vancouver at the PNE over Halloween one year, we used to, work Halloween's out there.
Yeah.
So we found this area, and it was basically the first 100 meters was flat, and I pulled it in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And the last 10 meters was uphill, and it took another 3 minutes to get it that last 10 meters to just break the record. And the other hilarious anecdote that comes out of that is I actually tore the muscle in my bicep pulling the rope. So I couldn't lift my arm over my shoulders for like 5 years. But I can do it now. Can't see it, but I can do it.
I know you're doing it, buddy. I'm proud of you.
That's the sound of it. I'm holding my hand next to the microphone while I move my shoulder.
So you have giant hooks in your back. You're not worried about that. It's that bicep that is really a problem, huh?
Well, the hooks, even if the hooks rip out, that gets better. I very much didn't expect to have muscular damage from towing a 3-ton truck. But yeah. And since then, we've done a bunch. Pepper, you want to toss any out there?
Well, I've done the mousetrap one 3 or 4 times now. I'm up to 58, I believe, in a minute.
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty fast. I have the most animal traps released on the body in a minute, which I believe is at...
It's just under 30, right? It's like 28 or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's around 30. It's a lot. It really sucked doing that one. That hurt. We have most baking trays buckled over the head in a minute, which is a 2-man one.
We're not doing that one again.
No, that one's retired. Orbax has most weight from one hook in the forehead.
Ow!
I have most weight from hooks in the cheeks. Cheeks on my face, that is. Like
Yeah.
face cheeks. I'll clarify because you never know.
Although that said, that gives me an idea.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, there's an idea.
Yeah, exactly. I got a blockhead record. Yeah, I have a blockhead record for the most nails in the nose in 30 seconds, like in and out. But yeah, one of the ones we're most proud of is we also this might
This is shocking.
Yeah, I was gonna say this might seem like it doesn't fit with the rest of our personas, but we also do a children's science show.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a lot about that.
Yeah, we're super science nerds, and we did a Guinness World Record for the largest elephant's toothpaste.
The largest elephant's what?
Elephant's toothpaste. So it's potassium iodide mixed with peroxide, and you put a bunch of soap in the top. So it makes a giant kind of like soap volcano that comes out. And it actually became this big YouTube phenomenon. We did the first record break of it, and then all these YouTubers kind of ran with it and made these massive ones. You've probably seen them on Instagram or on YouTube where it's just like it fills an entire person's house.
Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah, or a swimming pool or whatever. We did the first one. Well, Science Bob did the first one, then we broke that, and then it just opened a floodgates of people trying to do that record for that entire summer.
Now, how do you guys come up with the ideas? I mean, the toothpaste you saw before, but I mean, hooks in the back and mouse traps on the tongue. And do you go, gee, I have an idea. Let me put as many mouse traps on my tongue as I possibly can. How does that happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the idea. Well, we've been doing our freak show for, like I said, I guess about 15 years now. I'm last year was my 20th anniversary of performing. So we've been running the show for a long time, but the show clearly isn't like a record breaking show. It's not like you go out there and you just break a record every time. So we've been doing sideshow stunts and traditional and new, whatever you want to call them, second generation sideshow stunts for 15, 20 years. And it became a matter of kind of taking stuff that we already did in the show or that we were comfortable doing, and then looking at those in terms of record-breaking possibilities, right? How big can we do this? How far can we push ourselves? How quick can we do this? That was kind of one of the starting points for us, I think, was saying, okay, in the show, Pepper does one mousetrap off on the tongue. And then it's like, well, maybe we could turn something like that into a record, because as anybody who performs knows, having these it creates a whole tapestry of another element of the show where you can talk about the record that's involved or the adventures that you've had going and breaking that record. So it opens up a really interesting avenue of storytelling to something that's already linked directly into the show without having to do the record itself as part of the show.
It also increases the time in the show, so you can have 2 full shows when you only had 1 before, right?
Well, exactly. As you might have been able to tell by now, I can talk for literally minutes at a time without any information coming out. So,
Well, how did you two get to working together?
Well, I guess it was about 15 years ago, right, Pepper?
Yeah, and another great weird story.
Oh!
Pepper's band was playing at. We were doing a festival that was. Well, I don't know. Do you want to take this one, Pepper?
All I can say, it was a giant body modification barbecue. Just ponder that for a moment, because that's a good one. And for the record, I just looked it up. My most animal traps in the body is 37 currently.
Oh, really? Wow, we were way off.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot more than we thought.
Did you just Google yourself or something?
I did, because I couldn't. It was driving me crazy. So it was at a body modification barbecue in Tweed, Ontario. So to set the scene, I guess you have a bunch of weirdos per se. I guess we're a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah, weirdos.
So it's fine. It's fine to say. On like a farm, and there was a crane doing suspensions. There was a lot of naked people running around. Quite a unique setting, I guess, would be the best way to put it for this. Don't you think, Orbax? It was
It was unique for sure.
Unique, yes. So that night he was performing and my band was performing, and at some point he power bombed me through a table that I believe was on fire and covered probably in thumbtacks.
Okay,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, and that was it. It was like
there was a guy in a monkey suit running around and fireworks going off everywhere.
Yeah, it was utter chaos.
And you said, we got something here.
There were sparks, literally sparks. And it was just like, this is magical. And then 20 years later, we're still running around the road being idiots together.
Do you remember the first stunt that you did? Not together. That was probably the first stunt you did together, but individually?
Yeah. I was, in terms of trying to do a sideshow, for sure. I was always obsessed with sort of the classic sideshow acts. But one of the traditional sideshow act was sort of popularized and reinvented by a gentleman named Melvin Burkhart, was the human blockhead. Oh, yeah. So you've probably seen this before. They hammered the nail into the nose. And that was, for me, the first thing that I set my mind to stunt-wise, that was with an end goal of doing it as entertainment and trying to be like, okay, this is sort of this ages old art form. I want to learn how to do this. And then I also want to learn how to present this. And I want to learn how to do this in front of people on a stage. And the incredible part of it is it turned out I'm literally the best in the world at it. Wow. So it's interesting coincidence how that turned out. But so for me, it was definitely that. And it was funny. I learned every one of the sort of the sideshow stunts that were out there. Pepper and I always say that we've done literally, even though in our show there might only be 6 or 7, we've done every single stunt except we've never learned how to swallow swords. No, that's the one thing. And as I approach my mid-40s, it becomes less and less of a what seems like a reality for me. Not for lack of trying. I mean, I've learned all those different stunts and have performed them before, but sort of backed away from them as I became more of a talker in the show. Yeah. And as just we sort of trimmed things back in the show and learned that storytelling and presentation could fill a lot of the time and be more engaging. But Blockhead was something I never really left. And it was, I guess, probably for a good almost 20 years was the start to every single show, was that same Blockhead routine I always did. I also got a little bit of touch of the OCD, so it kind of helped. It kind of helped and also was inescapable. So if that makes any sense.
But it had been crafted to such a point where it was, it was getting a little bit longer and longer. And it was the best sort of, I guess, like an appetizer to the show, because it really whet your palate for the rest of the ridiculous. And that was about to come, because it's got comedy. It's got a little bit of the gross factor. It's engaging with the audience. So it's always a nice foot in the door.
Really sets the scene.
Well, and especially with freak shows, right? You have to train your audience that even if you're disgusted or appalled or shocked, you got to respond. Yeah. It's very easy for people to sort of get that shocked factor or not know what to do. And you've got to train them to be, whatever is happening up here, we need you to make some noise and to give us some energy. So it was a nice way to kind of transition into that.
Interesting you should say that, just real quick, because Seinfeld said that laughter is the only response that people can give uncontrollably, because if something's funny, you just laugh. You simply laugh. That's all it is. But the things that you guys do, that seems to be an uncontrollable response too.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's a little less, it fills a room a little less than laughter does. I'll notice that if we have our show is very not language dependent, but it's very heavily language involved. There's a lot of jokes. There's a lot of asides. There's a lot of just kind of jabbing back and forth at each other. And you'll notice when you have to change it a little bit for non-English speaking audiences, or you're doing TV in Italy or Germany or something, it's very easy for those gasps to fill the entire performance ether that you're working in.
Yeah.
If you don't push them to sort of get into the comedy and to roll with it.
And that's why that was always a good start, because our show, despite all the, all our crazy antics we've been talking about since we started, we must sound like an absolute train wreck and monsters, but it's the show is more comedy based than anything else.
Oh,
believe it or not.
It's all slapstick. It's just slapstick, really.
Sure.
And occasionally something awful happens, but we make it palatable, and you still laugh at that, because it's almost, and people panic and they go, and you guys say, breathe. That's almost what that sets the tone. It's like, you're going to see something that's probably going to upset you, might make you gag, you might throw up, you might want to pass out, but it's okay. We're all going to survive, so you can laugh at it, and it's okay to laugh at us. That's why we're here. So when you go, you don't hold your breath, you go, and it's because that's very important, because it's not just a gross out show.
It's a nice relief.
Yeah.
It's cathartic for everybody. You laugh at two idiots, right? And then you go home.
It's like we always said, you ever want to watch two old men beat on each other and act like jerks? Then, hey, now's your time, right?
You see, 20 years ago, you couldn't say that.
No. It was two young men. It really wasn't the same. Two old men trapped in young men's bodies.
That's right. Well, what are the worst injuries you guys have sustained?
Orbax, you can start.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
this is the mother of all injuries, I think, yours.
So this is before Pepper and I were working exclusively together. I was sort of the way my career kind of started in the variety arts was in the area of Canada that I mean, there really wasn't there wasn't a variety scene, and it was sort of pre-burlesque resurgence. Comedy clubs were just doing comedy, and even then we were kind of in between the sort of the comedy booms. So I did a lot of work by introing bands or working with bands or trying to create like an evening, right, out of going to see, live music and shows. So I was introing, hosting, however you want to say it, Pepper's band. So this was a Halloween night,
Dun, dun, dun.
17 years ago, this Halloween. And I was doing bits in between and throwing to the bands. And one of the acts I was doing was a fire act. And I would need fire and blow fire. And we were doing a special fire break where I was going to lay on a bed of nails. And we were going to do a cinder block break on me on the bed of nails, where the sledgehammer would break the cinder block. And
By the way, wait. Back up just a little bit, because I watched video of your cinder block break. Most people that think of a cinder block break, you're thinking about on the stomach.
Well, this
right?
one was on the chest. I've since, because of this issue, I've moved to the groin primarily as where my cinder blocks get broken. But I was on a bed of nails at this point. So I was at the bricks on my chest, and I was going to do a brick on fire. So my assistant was putting the fluid on the brick. And while she was doing that, somebody in the crowd lit the fluid while she was pouring it. So the whole thing caught, the arc of the fluid caught, and the whole just canister of that fluid went up in flames, spilled out, and just hit me right across the face. I was ghost riding it, rolling around on the floor.
On fire?
Well, just his head.
Yeah, it was just my head. I mean, it wasn't the whole thing.
just that's
and it was
all.
weird. I had one of those weird, like, I guess you describe it as like an out of body moment where I was trying to, the rational part of my brain was still functioning. It's ceased functioning many years ago, but it was still functioning at the time. I'm trying to be like, okay, you're on fire. How do you put it out? Okay, you can't see very well because everything's orange because you're on fire in front of your eyes. And then I was like, why is that guy screaming so much? I can't think with that guy screaming. And the screaming that I was hearing was my own like lizard brain scream, like my physical screams. Anyway, they put me out, and I went to the hospital, and I had second and third degree burns to 11% of my body, mostly my face and some of my hands and stuff. And I was in the hospital for 10 days, and then I was home nursed for about 2 months. And that's when I decided to join show business full time.
And then shockingly enough, it all just peeled off and he was fine.
Yeah, I grew back pretty well. It was I recovered.
Because they like
really well.
it's third degree, you're gonna need skin grafts and you're gonna take skin off your butt and your legs and put it on, and it's like, oh, this is gonna be bad. And then he's like, I'm fine.
I was super lucky. I healed very well from it, and it did cause sort of a paradigm shift in my life where I sort of had to reevaluate, okay, you know, this stuff that you're doing, is it your passion or is school your passion? Because if it's just a hobby, hobbies aren't worth getting killed over. But if it's the way you want to live your life, and this is what you want to make your career, then go for it. And as I sit here, 17 years later, I can't help but think I made the wrong decision. But yeah, that's me. Pepper's got some doozies too.
Yeah. Pepper, what's top that, I dare you.
Oh, it's coming. This is a good one.
Oh, is it
This
good?
is probably the most traumatic injury I've had, but it's not that worse physically, because I have bulges in my back and my knees are shot and my arm. Like Orbax and I joke, we're both falling apart at this point. And we still got a lot of years left, hopefully, but it's each day is harder and harder to do stuff. So this is a pretty rough one. Physically, it wasn't that bad, but mentally it got me for a while. And for that reason, we still don't have chainsaws in the show.
Gulp.
We were getting ready to do our run out in Vancouver. So we do 3 shows a night over the course of, what is Orbax, 17, 18 days?
Yeah, it's 17, 18 days over 3 weeks.
So I love magic. And I'm like, how about we do a magic trick in one of those sets? Because, you're out in Vancouver, it's damp, it's cold, 3 shows a night. At the end of the run, we're just, feel like I've been hit by a truck 10 times. It's just,
and we're not necessarily outside, but it's at a haunt event. So we're in a tent. We're doing a tented show.
But it's still, there's a cold chill in the air and it's damp, and arthritis is always awful for us anyways. But so we decided to come up with a magic trick. So we're going to do like an A-frame pass-through illusion where I'm in the box and Orbax cuts through the chainsaw. My guts fall out and then he crawls through. Hilarious. And it's magic. So we're not getting hurt for that 40-minute show, and it'll save us a little bit of injury. So we always like to fly in and out of places a day before. We never like to fly day of. And this time we had to, because we had shows the day before. So we fly out there. We're setting up that afternoon, and we didn't have, in illusions, they always have like a black lycra or a spandex panel. So you can't see the inner workings when if it opens up, it's always covered. So we didn't have that. So we just had black tarp. So I had the frame off in my hands and I was holding it. You fired at the chainsaw. It's like, let's see when you hit the tarp, is it just going to cut it nicely, or is it going to shred it all to bits and we're going to have to get something else? So I'm holding it in front of my chest and he's in front of me and fires at the chainsaw, and he just goes through like 3 inches or so. And we look at it, looks fine. I'm like, put it in and kind of run it up and down a little bit. And we were both staring at the piece, which I'm holding it out maybe a foot in front of my chest, and he's same on the other side. And we were so focused on what it was doing to the tarp that we didn't think about distancing or anything. Plus, like I said, we had a late show and then flew right out to Vancouver. And so it came through, and I thought it felt like somebody sucker punched me in the side of the head. And I just, my ears are ringing and everything. And I was like, what's going on there? And I looked down, and when I looked down, there's just blood everywhere, everywhere. And I was like, oh, nothing hurt. I just didn't know what was going on. And I look up.
Wait, so the chainsaw went through the side of your head?
It basically grabbed his shirt.
It bounced off my chest.
Jumped up his chest and hit him in the face.
Yeah, so it hit me in the jaw and then ran across to the corner of my mouth. So I just see blood everywhere. Look up at Orbax, and he's just staring back at me, and it was like,
it was one of those things. It was like a ninja movie, where like you have like the 2 Ronin attack each other, jump through the air, and do like the sword reveal, and then they both land, and then the one guy splits in half. It was that thing. It hit, and it didn't register to happening until after it happened, and then I looked at him, and I just slowly saw his face opening up. It was weird.
Yeah. So that was that, and we know enough when we get hurt to stay calm. Like even when he was on fire, we sat him down and we had a video camera. He wanted to see himself, and he's like, oh, okay. And I just kept saying, I want to see it. He's like, it's not bad. I'm like, I want to see it. I have to see it. and I wish I hadn't seen it because it was pretty rough. But thankfully, 45 minutes later, have my face sewn up, and now I've a very minor little scar. You can barely see.
Yeah, he got really lucky there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys for those major injuries, you guys both. I mean,
you should have seen them before. They were great. Now they're just kind of. I mean, they get by. They function as a face, but beyond that,
shockingly, we were both because we could be legit hideous monsters at this point, but somehow we heal really fast. And thankfully, it was all. It just if it was down 2 inches, it would have been my neck. Up 2 inches would have been my eye.
And the same thing with the fire. Had I got hit in the face like an inch lower, it would have just gone right to my eyes and would have just blinded me immediately.
Game over.
So, and I mean, you know, some people go through Sideshow through their entire lives and never have an injury. Some people work with me and either I get injured or I injure them. I think sometimes people forget that what you're doing is actually dangerous. It is a danger act, right? It's a juggler can get hurt, dignity usually, but that you can get hurt in your act, but it's not the same as getting a chainsaw to the face, right?
Yeah, I think the worst injury I've ever had, I think I fell off the stage one time and got right back up and started performing again. It was no big deal. Mm-hmm. That was the worst thing.
That's what you got to do. But those falls suck though, eh?
Yeah, that's the worst. Because you don't see it coming.
Yeah, they
either.
do suck.
It's terrible.
It's not like a chainsaw on the face or being lit on fire.
Well, but I mean, at least with those, you kind of like, in a lot of what we do, we try to mitigate the danger or at least understand like the options. And, if you're doing an act, you kind of know that something like that can happen. But if you're walking and you expect there to be a floor or the stage to continue there and it isn't there, and you just do that terrible front fall where you're pushing down, your foot's still trying to find the ground, and you're just going forward at that,
the worst.
Rotating while it's happening. Oh, it's awful.
Well, thank you guys for making me feel a little better.
Well, no, it's true because people are always like, "How can you guys do that?" And the way we always explain it is, if you said, "Look, I'm going to kick you in the shin," I'd say, "Okay, I know it's coming," so you can kind of mentally prep a little bit. But if something just came up and you whacked me in the shin, I'd be on the ground for 2 hours. I'd be crying like a little baby because there was no prep for it. And that's the same, like those falls, anything you don't expect is just, it's terrible. Like it's just,
I mean, I guess the old line is that it's not pain, it's discomfort when it's in the act. It's something you've prepared yourself for.
And that's like too, all these, the big crazy stunts we were talking about, those are all one-offs. We always tell it. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, how do you guys do that every show?" It's like, well, we don't. If you have an act and you can't replicate it 6 days a week, then it's not a very good act because you have to be able to go.
Well, yeah, that's one of the questions that I had because one of the times you were saying you had 3 shows a day times 18 days. You have to be doing stunts that aren't going to kill you for the next show.
Yeah, they all hurt, right. But you have to make sure that it doesn't hurt too much, I guess is the key to that. And that was brutal too. We do those runs. Not only are we doing the theme park gig, I think we had 57 or 58 shows that month because it was Halloween. Afternoon shows, 3 shows at night, days off shows. Like it was just.
It's kind of funny though too. Sometimes you don't realize you can do something. A lot of times we did a week run at Coney Island a couple summers ago now, Pepper.
Probably.
2 or 3
I would
years
say
anyway.
within 2 and 20 years we were there.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah. So, and we were doing at Coney, they just you could bang out 8 or 10 shows a day because it's a cast show, right? So there's like 8, 10 performers on the roster and you might only be doing 3 minutes. You might be doing 6 minutes. And then the next hour you do your act again. And I do this act in the show where I have, they're not like fish hooks. They're like hooks from an optical retractor, like you'd have seen from something like Clockwork Orange, where they do the Ludovico technique on the guy, right? And they hold his eyes open.
Oh, yeah.
So they're not sharp. They're just bent metal. So I do this act where I lift weights from hooks in my eyeballs with those. So I wrap them around my eyelids and lift them. And it's great because I'm already super gross to look at anyway. And then you add on top of it, like pulling my eyes down. It looks like my face is going to rip off.
Gross.
But I didn't realize, turns out I can do that 10 times in a day. When we did Coney Island, it was hilarious. I was like, all right, found out I can actually do that bit that many times.
It's always impressive, eh? You can give yourself a little pat on the back. It's like, look what I just did.
Yeah, you did the first one. You're like, well, I have another one at 10:30.
Yeah.
Let's
And
see.
I make fun of it a lot, but we get that interaction a lot with, especially with young people looking to get into, the type of performance that we do. And I think a lot of them start with basically stunt crews on YouTube now. So it's no longer sort of looking to Circus as the origin of it. It's more like looking to Johnny Knoxville or Steve-O, And so they start these stunt crews. And that said, like there's some great videos and they go viral. You have a group of kids who are doing that stuff and skate videos, and they make 100 videos and maybe one of them gets 1 million views or 100,000 views, and they see it as an entree into doing more of that as a performance. And that's one of the big things that you have to tell them is like, look, you need to work on presentation, because you can't fall out of a tree onto a picnic table in 3 times a day. You can't fall and hit real hard, which is what people want to see on YouTube. That's not an act that you can run in your show.
Mm-hmm.
And some people can pull it off. It's one of those things to try to point young people towards, is that there's an art form to being able to shove hooks in your eyeballs. And that's one thing that I can tell the youth of today. It's that to really focus on the presentation.
Well, people always, we've done shows with people, if we've mutual friends on the internet or whatever, you finally, meet another performer, you do a show, and we'll walk off the stage and be like, you guys just did 45 minutes with one fork and one mousetrap? Like what? It's like, yeah, that's what we do. It's just, you make it a spectacle. Everything's a spectacle, because anybody can just walk out and fire a mousetrap on your tongue. It's over in 2 seconds. You might get applause. You might get somebody care, but we want to have everybody right on board with us. Like, until you are on our team, there's no show. Like, we want to build that. And it's like, that's why I say in the show, Orbax is more abrasive, and they kind of, they want to see him get hurt, but they don't want to see me get hurt. So when I get hurt, it's super upsetting for everybody, because they're like, I hate Orbax. Why did he do that? But you got to build that dynamic, and it's the presentation is so important. The stunts are really a secondary.
Wait a minute. Of course, Pepper, that's you saying that.
Yeah. I hope they like me.
Well, but part of it is they do, but part of it is like we do kind of a classic like 2-man like double act, right? Where you got the mean guy and the nice guy. And as well as anybody else that oftentimes for your crowd, it doesn't matter what you do, it matters who you are up there. They want to love you or like you or hate you, but you could have the best act in the world, but if they don't care about who you are up there, then it doesn't matter.
We've seen some crazy things on stage, and nobody cares. And people are like, and we're like, oh my God, did you just see that? And people are like, but we appreciate it. But the audience, we literally saw a guy get crucified one time on stage, and people were like, it was harsh, and nobody cared whatsoever. Like, not even, this is disgusting. Like, there was nothing. And it was like, wow, those are big spikes to this guy. Like, anybody care? No? Okay.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I go to a lot of busker festivals, and a lot of the busker festivals, you can tell the difference between a pro that's been doing it for a long, long time, because they're building up the act. They're building it up. And then it happens. And then you care about the person because you've recognized their character.
Totally.
You know what's going on.
It's like I always say,
whereas if someone just swallows a sword, you're just like, great.
It's like I always say, the amateur takes 20 minutes to climb that ladder. The pro busker takes 45 minutes to climb that ladder.
There it is.
That's right.
They got something for every one of those rungs.
But there's a real art to it. And
it's
one thing we try to tell people more and more. It's like, you can be a weekend warrior, especially in in the freak show, sideshow world. You can come up with the most extreme stunt, run out, do it once, then you're done. And we tell them, like, that's not a show. That's you doing something stupid and dangerous. Which could it be entertaining? I like seeing dumb stuff once in a while, but in itself, that's not a performance. That's not putting on a show. That's doing something dumb. It's very important to know the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. So what are the craziest places you guys have worked? Have you got some private gigs that have been bizarre and strange?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's always funny when we do awful things in really nice places.
Yes.
Like we were down in Christchurch for the World Busker Festival in New Zealand there, and we got to do their big
gala.
closing show gala on this gorgeous, like how it's like 100-year-old theater in the middle of Christchurch.
Got like the 3 balconies.
And a portion of it had fallen down during the earthquakes, and they were like in their process of restoring it because it was this like, historical monument. We did this act where it's just a musical number.
And the best part, we wouldn't tell them what we were doing. We just told them we need about 3 minutes. That's all we said. Like, what are you doing? Like, you'll love it. Trust us.
Trust us.
Yeah.
So it's to the song Rain Men. So we get everybody pumped and get them clapping to Rain Men, and we're dancing around on stage like 2 fat old men do. And then we take out syringes with hypodermic needles on them and shove them through our faces. And then it culminates with putting a needle straight through the hand. So like from the top of the hand all the way out through the palm. And then we spray each other with the water in the syringe. Like we're having a great time on
That's
the
like
beach.
a little sexy Zoolander gas fight kind of.
Because it's Rain Men, right? You get it? And of course, I have been running like maybe I guess 10 percentile overall, but there was a time where it was like a 50% chance of me getting a giant hematoma in my hand when it happened. And yeah, we got a lot of blood on a gorgeous stage in New Zealand. It was a real shame they let us perform there.
That being said, though, we killed it. The place went crazy.
Oh yeah.
That's just what I was going to ask. Were they just stunned, or did they?
Oh no, they
go
were
crazy?
up for a good time. That group.
And, well, it was funny because like the really, the hoity-toities and the rich folk that buy these gala tickets were all really like right up front. I don't know if all they were too happy about it, but everybody from 3 rows back loved it.
You need the Gallagher splash zone.
Coincidentally, the further they were away from seeing what we were doing, the happier they were. I don't.
Yeah. Ironically,
we've done some really fancy dinner stuff too, which is always hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like, what'd you pay for dinner? Sorry, because we're about to ruin your meal.
Yeah,
so that's always a fun one.
Yeah, that's like with the condom bit. There was the bit where you probably see people do it with balloons. I do it with a condom where you can put it in your nostril and out your throat and through one nostril, back around behind the back of the skull and out the other. And for some reason, I always end up doing that when we get booked for a dinner party type thing. And it's not on purpose either, because I know it seems like it's a real jerk thing to do, and it would be kind of funny for us to do that. It's just that it really works in the time frames that we're given for those bits.
Yeah, it's not our fault.
Although it does explain why we haven't done multiple ones of those dinners.
Very true.
Yeah, let's bring back the guys who put the condom through their nose. And
next,
you know what this soup needs? More sweaty guy with a condom in his face. That's what it needs.
It's hilarious that we've literally done we've done swingers conventions, we've done theaters, we've done schools, we do kid shows, we do, you name it, pretty much any venue you can think of, we've done with this show. And it's funny too, because we do a lot of children love us. They absolutely, we've done this show at the Busker festivals, and it's all we do is change the language.
Well, yeah, let's talk about your children's show. You have a science education children's show, right?
Yes, but we also do the freak show, though, for the kids on the street, which is funny. They're always like, we don't have to say, don't try this at home, because kids aren't dumb. Kids are like, oh, that looks like that hurts. And they laugh, they love it. It's it's the guys that are 25.
Yeah, kids get that it's a show.
Yeah. Guys are 25, like, I can do that. It's like, yes, everybody can do it, sir. Just sit down. We get it. It's like, we're not trying to emasculate anybody. We're not trying to be tough guys. If you ever seen the show, we are like as far from tough guys as you can get, even though we look like lunatics. It's all just funny. And we love doing the kids stuff. But yeah, we also do that kid science show, which is like pretty much a solid 180, I think, from the freak show, I guess.
It still does target a very specific group of kids. Because a certain group of kids like the freaky stuff, and also a certain type of group of kids like the science ultra nerdy stuff as well.
Well, what kind of science theories do you guys kind of go over in your show?
Well, I'm a physics professor as well, so there's a lot of physics in it. And Pepper's math.
Wait, this is Orbax. You were a university physics professor, right?
Well, I mean, technically I'm not a professor. Technically I'm a lecturer because I don't have tenure. You're missing all of the air quotes that I'm using, but you can probably hear them in my voice. Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel them.
So when we're not touring, I pick up lecture gigs. So there's a lot of physics in it.
kind of dabble in all the sciences, though.
But
Really,
yeah,
like,
it does. I mean, Pepper's a real math nerd as well, and we both love space, and we're into cool, weird animals and dinosaurs and everything else. We were really lucky a couple years ago through working with Guinness World Records on ridiculous stunts. We got the opportunity to be involved with the production of their book, Guinness World Records Science and Stuff. In that book, Professor Orbax and his long troubled lab assistant, Sweet Pepper Klopek, kind of guide kids through science experiments that they can do at home that are also opportunities for kids to break records doing science. And it's a neat book that kind of pulls from all areas of science. I mean, I love it even as a book, even if I wasn't involved with being in it. But the thing I love the most is that we got this massive 40-page spread of us in it. Which is pretty great. But
wow,
yeah, so it kind of pulls from everything. So I mean, we do a lot of, we do some chemistry with elephant's toothpaste and like some cool chemical reaction stuff. We have a vortex cannon, so I guess that's atmospheric physics. We can talk about, we just shot a video the other day about I managed to score some coprolite, which is a fossilized dinosaur poop. So we chat about that, and we talk about space, and we talk about rockets, and we try to sort of give a nice breadth of the spectrum in the show of cool science things, but also things that are super achievable for families to do at home. Everybody has such, especially through this whole ordeal with COVID, with people losing jobs. And
I say it's going to be very valuable right now.
Well, this thing and people not working, you don't always have money to spend on science kits or to build stuff. One of the things that we try to do is that we feel it's really important for science to be accessible to everybody. What I love about going into schools, you can show these kids that two dopey looking, tattooed, weird looking guys can do science. It's there for anybody. All you have to do is engage with it. And so we try to show them, inexpensive ways they can do fun experiments at home. And then we also try to blow up stuff a lot. So
a lot of you can literally go to a dollar store and have enough stuff for 5 experiments, which is great. Like for literally very little money.
And, the show's called, for anybody listening, for the ships at sea there who are listening to my transmission, it's called Orbax and Pepper Do Science. So you can find that on the social medias, but there's lots of videos and lots of fun books and everything like that we sort of promote and get out there just for kids to get a chance to get actively involved.
And it's so nice because we're so proud of it. We wanted to do a science show for years. And if once you know us, it's like, oh, they're just, two normal guys. But you see the freak show persona and everybody's like, oh, these lunatics again. Like, why are these guys back? And we talked about doing a kid's science show, and everybody's like, you two guys, like with you guys, like it was a weird thing. We're like, no, we can do it. Trust us. And then when we got approached about the Guinness book, we were so stoked because as soon as that hit, it opened all the doors. It immediately, we didn't have to explain ourselves. It was like, oh, you guys are the Guinness science guys. Here we go. And immediately we started booking shows, even on just the press release of the book. So it really opened the doors. We do tons of elementary schools now and festivals. And
that's great. That's good. It's a great market. That's my market, not science, but schools.
And it's so fun to see the kids just get that excited for science.
I love it.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's weird. I'd never really, as somebody who instructed older students, it kind of came out a lot of that stuff from the, you got students who are trying to cheat or kids who are in your class who don't care or this, that, and the other. And then to interact with these young people, especially, grade 7, grade 6, grade 7, grade 9, grade 10, anywhere in there, it's just so inspiring. And they've got such great questions. And the way that they look at stuff is so phenomenal and amazing. And I was excited to see the transition of like a generation who had the internet and just used it to Google answers and to cheat. And then this new generation of kids who are using the internet like a library. They're using it to vet information and to research things and to find things out, which is how we should all be using it. So it's just so exciting and inspiring to work with these young people and just to see like, okay, we're going to be in good hands once we get this 20-year difference between that. Once those people all die off, this younger generation before that, they're going to be A-okay. So,
because it's shocking sometimes, like, kids in grade 4 and 5 come up with these questions and the jaw drops. It's like, wow, that's good for you for even that being in your brain. And it's actually, it's not something their parents said to ask. They can tell they actually care and they actually have an interest. They're like, why did that happen? Like, It's incredible.
That's neat.
It gives me so much faith.
Yeah, it gives me faith too. All right, well, in a few minutes, we're going to go to Factor Something John just made up. But before I do that, you guys have your own podcast, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's going on with that? I know we're jumping all over the place with this thing, but tell me about that thing.
It's all right. What we do is, you see, we create all types of entertaining content that no one cares about. So,
exactly the same as I do.
Fantastic. We're just like everybody else in the entertainment industry. In the beginning of March there, we heard about this thing that was happening and people were getting sick. And we're like, oh, geez, this is something we should be worried about. And then within a span of 2 or 3 days, realized that, yeah, this is changing the world. And then at that point, just watched every gig we've got booked for the rest of the year sort of evaporate. So we gave the world what it was missing. 2 white guys talking about what they feel. So
nobody else in the world is doing that.
No one else has done that. So it's like, you know what? People need to hear what these 2 old white men think about everything. But yeah, so we basically took the opportunity to say, well, you know, everybody that we know is at home and they're in the same boat. So we've just been basically calling up friends and doing an interview show, not unlike this, chatting about entertainment, chatting about where it's going and what the future of it is. And hopefully, you know, we're going to be seeing coming through now, exploring like, okay, well, what are these new avenues of where things are? But it's really given us a chance to catch up with friends. We've been able to chat with magicians and professional musicians and other sideshow people and comics and just everybody across the entire spectrum.
Yeah, it's so weird not running into these people on the road.
Yeah.
It seems like the world just got so small.
Yeah, the great thing about having 2 things. Great thing about having a podcast, for me, I've met all sorts of people that I probably would have never met otherwise. Like you guys. I don't know if I would, you know, because I'm a magician and I perform in a lot of different places, but way different than places you guys perform. So chances are we haven't crossed paths, and we probably wouldn't cross paths if it wasn't for that. And then secondly,
we will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulties.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Well, thanks, guys.
So insightful,
I know that was,
John. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm blown away.
I know. I can't believe I let that information out.
I just don't even think you could even reword it the exact same way if you tried. It was just an inspired moment.
Yeah. Never to be repeated ever.
Well, you know what? Let's just move on right from that. Let's just go to Factor Something John just made up. How about that, guys? Okay.
Yes.
All right, sounds good.
Is it fact? Or is it something John just made up?
So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to say a headline, and then you guys are going to tell me whether it's true or not. And if it is true, kind of tell me something more about it. How does that sound?
Yeah.
All right, first headline. Sweet Pepper was once suplexed so hard through a table that the impact on his back bruised his ribs in the front.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, before I was doing dumb stuff in this show, I did dumb stuff with my band. I had a band called the legendary Klopek, and we started as a 4-piece punk rock band, just fast, dumb, funny punk rock. It evolved over a few years into an 8 to 10 man band, but at one point there was 10 guys in the band, but only 5 actually played. We had 2 guitars, bass, drums, me on vocals, and then we had a full-time guy in a monkey suit named Harry Knipschen. We had a character called the Whammer, and all these other characters, they would just run around and cause chaos and, you know, smash stuff. But I always would get hit with barbed wire baseball bats, all bloodied up, and then I'd get thrown through tables all the time. And this one gig, it was at a bar, and it had a tile floor. I can remember it because it's still like my breathing hurts when I think about this story. The Whammer he's a big band. He's probably like 6'3", 6'4", 240-ish, 250. He'd get very excited sometimes. And I guess he was a little excited this time and picked me up for a power bomb. And it just felt, I guess, fast. If Orbax, you know what I'm talking about, it was like, oh, this is going to be bad. I went up and I came down and I had the wind knocked out of me so bad. But it was hilarious. Even when I got really hurt with the band, the show would just keep going. Sometimes for 3 or 4 more songs, just chaos erupted around me laying on the floor dying. Got up, couldn't breathe, couldn't sing, kind of like the last couple of songs, and hobbled out to the van. And when the next day, my whole chest was like green and purple, and it was like my whole skeleton tried to leap out of my chest from the impact on my back. Like it was unbelievable. And that's probably how I have bulge discs now, come to think of it. Yeah.
When you really think back about it, I mean, that's probably a lot of it.
Yeah, one night I went through like 19 tables in a row.
19 days. Wait, I didn't even ask about that, but tell me about that.
Friends of ours, he was working at it was like a demolition, I guess, or something. And he called, I used to work at a record store, and he's like, hey, we're clearing out a bingo hall. Do you want like 30 tables? And I said, yes, I do. So he brought them to me, and we had a great idea for this show. It's like, let's just set up all the tables. At the end of the last song, I'll just get thrown through every single table until we lined the last two. One was on the steps going out of the venue, and then the last one was outside. So it was just, we were hitting tables. Some didn't break, some did. Some took 2 or 3 shots, and it was just, the carnage was, it was an epic night. And this is too bad before like cell phone cameras, because I would really like to be able to see this.
Oh, that's great. Great exit.
It's one of those things where it's like, geez, at some point, Pepper, you should just get a gimmick.
Yeah, just one.
I was ahead of my time.
All right.
Fact.
Yes. Next one. Here we go. The great Orbax once wore a 20-pound beard of bees.
Yeah. I was shooting a TV show for Discovery Channel. We were shooting a science show, and I got to host the show that ended up in the end going nowhere, had all of my hosting stuff cut out of it, and just played Baby Elephant Walk anytime I was on the screen. So it literally just turned from like the greatest opportunity in my life to the most demeaning thing. But what show business tale doesn't have that in it? Yeah. But as part of it, I get to go to Falher, Alberta. A gentleman there named Fernando, him and his family had come
he's the bee guy?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
He had grown up getting honey from Africanized killer bees, had moved to this area in Alberta that just had like somehow was this optimal combination of daylight hours to temperature to the even the type of crops and how they were flowering, and it just became this like honeybee capital. So as part of that show, I got to wear a bee beard.
Wow.
And they crawled over my entire face. I had like basically by the end of it, I just had one eye open. It was my entire head. And it's weird because it's like 20 pounds, but you don't feel the weight because all the individual bees can withstand their own weight because they're buzzing, right? So they're holding themselves up. It's so strange.
This is a weird confession, but this is one of my dreams, is to have a bee beard.
Oh, dude, it's amazing.
Let's make that happen.
I mean, how do they get the beard? Don't they have, I mean, I was talking to my daughter about this, and she said, Dad, you know way too much about bee beards. Don't they put like a queen on your chin or something, or around the beard?
So it was a queen pheromone.
Right.
Yeah.
So so they starve the hive for a couple days before, and by starving a hive, they don't necessarily like take their food away. What they do is they remove them from a queen. So there's no pheromone being exuded by the queen, which is what happens when the queen dies and a hive splits. So you'll sometimes see a swarm take place like on a tree outdoors or something. That's because there's been a new queen that's hatched in a hive that already has a queen, and so it takes a percentage of the bees away with them. But either way, the presence of the queen is what draws the hive. So they have a pheromone that they have, which is been synthetically created. They put in a little container, and you put that usually around your neck, or they can dab a little bit onto your face or whatever. They try not to like put it on you. It's like in a container. And then that's where the bees will swarm to. So that's kind of the bee beard thing, is that you'd kind of wear it around your neck. And then that's kind of where the central locus of it is. And so when they go on you, the other thing is, as well, is that bees also emit a pheromone when they sting. And that's the difference between normal honeybees and killer bees, is that when a killer bee releases the stinging pheromone, then every bee in the hive, the pheromone's so strong that it overrides their ability to decide to sting you or not. So they all sting.
Oh, okay.
And so when the killer bee, it's not like a killer bee has venom. It's just that you get stung by 10,000 bees, and then you get anaphylaxis, and that's how that's how it gets you. But with a normal bee beard, if you get stung once or twice, you kind of have to just let it go. because if a bunch of them start stinging and you start panicking, then it excites the other ones and they get anxious and they start to sting as well. So I did get stung a couple times, but you just kind of have to let it happen and not respond to it, which is weird.
I don't think I could do that.
It's a real claustrophobic feeling. It's
Oh, I am so happy right now. I am so happy right now because I got to talk to somebody who has had an actual bee beard.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, you do, it is a bucket list thing. You have to do it.
All right, next one. The monsters of Schlock are both vegan.
Yeah, it's true.
Fact.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's a fact. It's we are the two scariest nicest people you're gonna meet.
Shh. Secrets out.
Wait, I just made that up. You're telling me that's true?
Yeah, I don't think you should kill animals to eat them.
How did that all start?
Pepper, go for it.
All right. Well, for me, it didn't start as like a moral thing. I just wanted to change my diet because, as you know, being on the road, it's not always the healthiest options, right? Especially, we're doing a lot of bar shows and stuff. So you get out of a venue, the only thing open is McDonald's. Between, all the beers and then just eating all the cheeseburgers and everything, it was too much. Every time we came home, I'm like, God, I gained so much weight on tour again. So I'm like, I'm going to cut out meat to limit my options. And then did that for a couple of years. I actually dropped a bunch of weight, felt better. And then it was just sort of a natural progression into veganism. And then once my brain clicked that I can't eat animals, I just 100% stopped. Shockingly, I could do it pretty easily.
Wow.
Because I was a big meat eater before, and now I just cut it out and feel pretty good and been pretty healthy. And
you too, Orbax?
Yeah. I was loath to become vegan because I'd been making so much fun of Pepper for being vegetarian. And so I felt that I would be ceding the high ground, which is a terrible thing for me to have to do on any level. I just started thinking about it more and more. And I grew up on a farm, and I was always very much through the farm about the accountability of my food and where that stuff came from. And I was a hunter growing up as well. To me, there was a lot to be said for knowing where your food is and where it comes from and how you're involved with that cycle of what you consume and what you leave in the world. And I'd realized how far away I'd gotten from that as a moral decision. I just decided, without even doing the vegetarian thing, I just decided straight out that I was not going to be involved with brutalizing animals to eat. I mean, if I have my cats and I love them, how is it any different than having somebody do terrible things to a cow or to a pig just so that I can eat it? And I was also at a point too where I'm this guy who believes in science, and we're at a level in our world where nutritional intake and all of that other stuff that we require, we can get through other sources. We know enough about human diet. You don't have to hurt things in order to eat.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it came from for me. And that was my personal decision to do it. And yes, I do think it makes me better than you.
This podcast just took a turn, didn't it?
Yeah. Sorry.
We're shockingly caring people though. Like we actually, we care a lot about stuff, and the way the world's going right now, it's like anything we can do to try to make things better. Yeah. There's people that are going to be left here when we're gone. And at the state things now.
Not if I got anything to do with it.
Yeah, dun, dun, dun. Well, at the rate we're going, maybe may not be far off anyways, right?
That was fact. Or something John just made up.
All right, well, thanks, guys, for doing my show. That was awesome.
Hey, no problem.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it was a blast. Pleasure to meet you.
I'm glad. Do you guys have any social media or something else you want to promote before I let you go?
Yeah, I mean, you can, I think we're pretty much only on Instagram these days. We have Facebook stuff, but we're not really that active over there. You can find Pepper as Sweet Pepper Klopek, all one word, on Instagram. And I am _great_Orbax because I thought that was a good idea at the time. Kids Science Show, Orbax and Pepper do science. You can find it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and our podcast. Orbax and Pepper do a podcast. Please, if you enjoy these nonsensical ramblings that you're hearing now, then you can get way more of them over on ours.
This is just a little toe dip for you guys.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, and thanks to all my variety artists. Tell all your friends about the Variety Artist Podcast. And listeners, make sure to rate and review the show. just scroll down on your phone or however you're listening to this and hit that little 5-star thingy. And if you have a minute, leave a review. I might just read it on air. Now go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
That's all for this episode of The Variety Artist, but your journey continues on our website. Go to thevarietyartist.com for more strategies, insight, and resources, as well as show notes on today's guest to assist you in your career. We'll see you on the next episode of The Variety Artist. But until then, go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.